I was sitting on my bedroom floor last year, not meditating or anything cool like that, just sitting. Because I couldn't decide. See, I had this extra 300 bucks. Not life-changing, but not nothing either. And I kept switching back and forth. One minute I was like, yeah, throw it at the credit card, get that number down, feel responsible. Next minute I was like, no, put it in the brokerage account, let it grow, be smart. So I just sat there, phone in my hand, thumb hovering, for like 45 minutes. That's not an exaggeration. I actually timed the third round of it because I wanted to feel how stupid I was being. 47 minutes total across the whole night. And here's the thing that got me. I knew the math. I'd watched all the videos, read all the threads. I could tell you exactly what the spreadsheet said. But knowing and doing are not the same thing. They're not even close. My name is Jordan, and I've spent way too many nights like that one, frozen. Not because the answer was hard, because the answer was different depending on who I wanted to be that day. And I keep coming back to something that most finance people won't say out loud. This isn't really about math. It's about identity. It's about whether you can sleep at night owing money. And I'm going to show you what I mean, but hang on to that thought. I'll circle back. Chapter 1. The guaranteed return nobody talks about. So here's the thing that nobody puts in the YouTube title. When you pay off debt, you're getting a guaranteed return equal to the interest rate on that debt. Credit card at 22%? Pay it. Done. That's a risk-free 22% return. Try finding that anywhere else. I'll wait. But that's not where people get stuck. People get stuck on the gray zone, the 5% mortgage, the 6% car loan, the 7% personal line of credit, because the stock market has historically returned about 10%. So the spreadsheet says invest, right? Borrow at 5, earn 10, pocket the difference. Simple. Except, and I really mean except, that simple math assumes you're a robot. And you're not. I'm not. Nobody is. Chapter 2. The advice I gave my friend that backfired. I remember my friend Sarah from college. She had about $15,000 in student loans at 4.8%, and she got a bonus at work, $2,200. Not huge, but real. And she asked me what to do, and I gave her the spreadsheet answer. I said, invest it. The market average is 10%. You'll come out ahead. She invested it. 6 months later, the market dropped 14%, and she panicked, sold everything, lost about $300 of the original amount, plus missed out on paying down the loan. And she came back to me really upset, not at me, at herself. She said, I knew I should have just paid the debt. I knew it, but I listened to the math instead of listening to myself. And that's when I started realizing I gave her bad advice. Not mathematically bad, psychologically bad for her. See, Sarah is someone who feels debt. It sits on her chest. She checks her balances 3 times a week, not because she's anxious about money generally, because she just hates owing. And I knew that about her. I just forgot to factor it in because I was trying to be the smart guy with the calculator. So here's my first real opinion, not the balanced one. The real one. Most of the debt versus invest conversation is backward. People ask, what earns more? They should ask, who are you?
Chapter 3. Let me contradict myself already.
Let me contradict myself for a second, because I need to be honest. Earlier, I made it sound like the choice is clear once you know your personality. That's not quite right either. I've changed my own mind on this 3 times while making this video. Actually 4, I just remembered another one. Because here's where it gets slippery. Even if you're someone who can carry debt, even if you're totally fine with it, the math isn't guaranteed. That 10% average, that's over 30 years, not over 2 years, not over 5. If you need this money in the short term, the calculation changes completely. Let me walk you through an example, because numbers help. They don't solve the human problem, but they help. Chapter 4. The $800,000 difference.
Say you've got a mortgage, $350,000 at 4%, 30 years. Monthly payment is about $1,670. And somehow, side hustle, stop buying crap, whatever, you've got an extra $1,000 a month.
Option 1. You attack the mortgage with that extra $1,000. You're done in about 14 and a half years instead of 30. You save about $140,000 in interest. Feels great. Then you take that old payment, $1,670, plus the extra $1,000, so $2,670 a month, and you invest it for the remaining 15 and a half years. At 10% returns, you end up with about $1.2 million. Total wealth after 30 years? Around $1.1 million. Option 2. You make the minimum mortgage payment, $1,670 a month, and you invest that extra $1,000 from day one, every month for 30 years. At 10% returns, that grows to about $2.2 million. You pay about $250,000 in interest over those 30 years, which, yeah, that stings. But even after that interest, you're at about $1.9 million total wealth. $800,000 difference. That is not pocket change. That's a house. That's a decade of retirement. That's real money. So the math says invest. Clearly, obviously. But Chapter 5, where I failed at my own advice. And here's where I have to be honest with you. That calculation assumes you don't panic. It assumes you don't sell when the market drops 30%. It assumes you don't lose your job and need to cash out at the worst possible moment. It assumes you're okay watching your investment account go down for 2 years straight while that mortgage balance barely moves. Most people aren't. I wasn't. I tried this. I had a car loan at 5.9%, and I decided to invest instead of paying it off. I put $250 a month into an index fund. Felt so smart. Then the market dropped. Nothing catastrophic, just down like 12% over 9 months, and I couldn't stop looking at it every day. I'd open the app like something would have changed since breakfast. It hadn't. Eventually, I sold, locked in a loss, and paid off the car loan with what was left. I made less than $0 and felt like an idiot the whole time. That's not a brag. That's just me being honest about how I'm wired. Stop here for a second. Honest answer. Are you the person who feels debt like a weight? Like it's sitting on your chest every time you check your phone? Or are you the person who sees debt as just numbers on a screen, something to manage, not something to fear? Don't tell me what you want to be. Tell me what you actually are. Because lying to yourself here costs more than any interest rate ever will. Drop one word, weight or screen. Just one word in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how this splits. And I read them, not a bot thing. I actually sit there and scroll. Chapter 6. My neighbor David did the opposite of what I'd recommend. Now let me tell you about my neighbor David. Different situation. David had a mortgage at 3.2%, insanely low. And he had about $40,000 in savings, not invested, just sitting there earning nothing. And he kept saying, I should just pay down the house, get rid of the payment. And I was like, David, your interest rate is lower than inflation. You're borrowing money for free. Actually, cheaper than free if you count inflation. He didn't care. He paid down the house. Felt amazing. Called me and said, I did it. I own my home. And you know what? He was so happy, so relieved. He slept better. He worked less. He took more risks at his job because he didn't have that fixed payment hanging over him. Was that mathematically optimal? No. He lost out on probably $200,000 of investment growth over time. Was that the right decision for him? 100% yes. And that's what nobody puts in the spreadsheet. Peace of mind has value, real value. Value that doesn't show up in a retirement calculator. Chapter 7. The boring middle ground that actually works. So here's where I land after all of this. After my own stupid mistakes. after watching Sarah panic sell, after watching David pay off a 3% mortgage like it was a credit card.
I think most people should do both.
I know. That sounds like a cop-out, like the kind of answer a financial advisor gives when they don't want to upset anyone. But hear me out. If your debt is between 4 and 8%, that gray zone where the math is close, split the difference. Half goes to debt, half goes to investments. You are not optimizing. You are not winning any spreadsheets. But you are also not lying to yourself about who you are. You get the psychological benefit of watching the debt go down every month, and you get the compounding benefit of watching investments grow. It's slower, it's messier, it's human. I did this for 2 years with a car loan. $250 to the loan, $250 to an index fund. Did I maximize? No. Did I stay consistent without panicking or feeling deprived? Yes. And consistency beats optimization every single time when you're talking about decades. Chapter 8. The emergency fund nobody wants to hear about. Before I lose you, I need to say something boring, and I hate saying boring things. If you don't have an emergency fund, none of this matters. 3 to 6 months of expenses, just sitting there, earning nothing, looking useless. It feels stupid. I know it feels stupid. But if your car dies or you lose your job or something breaks and you don't have that cash, guess what happens? You cash out your investments at the worst time, or you add more debt, or both. I learned this the hard way. I had a medical bill, $2,000, appear out of nowhere. I had been putting every extra dollar toward debt. Felt so responsible. Then that bill came and I had to put it on a credit card. Higher interest than the debt I'd been rushing to pay off. I literally paid extra to feel good, and then paid even more because I felt too good to keep cash around. That's not discipline. That's just performing discipline.
Chapter 9. What I actually think. The real opinion.
So here's what I actually think. Not what the spreadsheets say, what I think. High interest debt, credit cards, personal loans over 10%, attack it like it owes you money. Get rid of it. Nothing you invest in will reliably beat that. Low interest debt, mortgage under 4%, some student loans, let it ride. Invest the difference. Inflation is working in your favor. Your payment gets cheaper every year. Middle interest debt, car loans, personal lines, anything between 4 and 8%, split the difference. Do both. You're hedging. You're not being optimal. You're being real. But here's the most important thing, the thing I keep coming back to at 3 in the morning. The best strategy is the one you don't abandon. If paying off debt keeps you consistent, if it lets you sleep and stay the course, then pay off the debt, even if the math says otherwise, because a suboptimal plan you stick with for 20 years beats the perfect plan you quit after 6 months. Every single time. Closing the first loop. Remember what I asked at the beginning? Remember at the beginning I asked who you're trying to become? Not what earns more, not which strategy wins in the spreadsheet. Who are you trying to become? Because here's the truth that nobody puts in the comment section. Some people cannot sleep with debt. It sits on their chest. It affects their relationships and their decisions and their peace. And for those people, paying off low-interest debt is not a math problem. It's a survival strategy. And that's okay. Other people can carry debt forever if the numbers work. They treat a 4% mortgage like free money. They invest everything extra. They don't care about the monthly statement. And that's also okay. But most people aren't honest about which one they are. They watch a video like this and they want to be the second person, the cool, calculated investor. So they try to act like that person. And then they panic and sell at the worst possible moment. Or they feel guilty every single day and regret not paying the debt off. So here's my actual opinion, not the balanced one, the real one. Pick the strategy that lets you sleep, not the one that makes you look smart in a Reddit thread, because the best financial plan in the world is useless if you abandon it 6 months in. So After all that, after the math and the stories and my own dumb mistakes, here's where I'm at. Are you performing or are you actually building? Because performing feels good today. Building feels good in 10 years, and you have to choose which version of yourself you're feeding. Drop weight, screen, or both in the comments. I'll read them. Always do.
If any of this landed weird or useful or uncomfortable, stick around. I do this every week. No course, no hype, just someone thinking out loud about money, because I can't stop thinking about it anyway. Oh, and I've been sitting on something. Next one's about retiring on $1 million. Whether that's actually enough or if it's just a number people say to feel safe. I think you'll want to hear that one, genuinely. All right, go look at your actual accounts right now while it's a little uncomfortable. That's where it starts.
The best strategy is the one you don't quit.
All right, go look at your debt. Not to feel bad, just to actually see it. That's where it starts. I'll see you soon.